What's it like across the border? It's a whole new land.
You guys have Coke, right? I thought that was just a Canadian thing.
So, do you have any siblings?
Yeah, I have a younger brother.
A younger brother. So, what's your relationship like with between you and your brother? And do you know his type?
I'm guessing he's an introverted feeler because, if anything, I sometimes feel like my FE is better than his. But I don't know. Maybe he's an ISFP. I have no clue.
So, what's your relationship like?
I mean, when we were kids, we used to play a lot, but I guess he feels like, because I used to like whoop his butt, so like he probably feels some type of way about that. So I don't know. I think he thinks like I'm a jerk or something. I don't really think that about myself, but I mean, I'll leave that to the viewers to decide. My fans seem to like me.
Yes, the internet is a great place for finding like-minded people.
But no, I like my brother. Like, you know, when we used to live together, you know, I drive him to work and stuff and things like that, and to school. So I mean, I feel like I do nice things. Just, you know, maybe sometimes I'm a douche. I don't know.
Oh, I know what I was gonna ask. What are some problems that you see in the world?
You're asking me. I mean, I don't know where to begin. I would imagine like an obvious one. Like, it's not like I'm coming up with this. I would probably something like money and politics, like politicians making a lot of money from like organizations who want to influence them. I would guess that that's a big one. Politicians should probably be impartial and make decisions for the interest of the people and not, you know, corporations trying to sway them. I know that's an easy one. Like, it's not very creative, but I mean, what do you expect from an ISTJ, right?
What else though? So, what else beyond politics and money?
I mean, when I see homeless people on the street, I feel bad for them. I don't give them money though. Because I don't want them to spend it on alcohol. I usually give them apples. I usually keep apples in my car to feed them.
So how often do you run into them? Is there like a pretty big homeless population in Vancouver?
Yeah, I don't know how they survive because it gets really effing cold here. I don't really live in Vancouver. I live 45 minutes outside in a town called Abbotsford. It's like think of it like, whatever, I don't have an example. But anyways, yeah, there's a lot of homeless people here. I feed them stuff sometimes, and I feel bad for them. And I don't know, it's like, I look at it like, some people blame them. They're like, oh, it's their own fault. But I just feel like, you know, certain things can happen to you in your life that could really psychologically damage you. And I know I'm a pretty sensitive guy, so I know that had things not gone the right way, I could have ended up like that. So there's always sympathy in my heart.
So, like following that line of like sympathy, how easy is it for you to sympathize with people?
I would say pretty easy, especially if they're in a bad spot, because I just imagine myself in their shoes and I go, shoot, like, they're handling it pretty good, all things considered. I probably wouldn't handle it very well because I don't have the highest stress tolerance in the world, to be honest with you. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy for me to be sympathetic towards other people.
Do you find that you sympathize often with people, or do you pick and choose when you sympathize?
I mean, if I'm busy, I try not to think about it. I try to just sort of sweep it under the rug. But I mean, if I'm daydreaming or something and I see somebody in a bad spot, I'm definitely going to start thinking about it. Kind of hard not to, right? Especially if it's right in your face.
Is there anything that you wish that you could personally change about the world, like something that you can do personally to like make an impact or whatever?
Well, it'd be really cool if college was free, because then I wouldn't be so broke. But that would be nice. You see, I don't really know where I stand on like politics. I'm pretty selfish. Like, if I feel like I could get, I wouldn't even call myself liberal, but I'd probably vote liberal if I felt like it was going to benefit me financially. So I'm not the best person in the world. I'm kind of selfish in that regard. What was the question again? I forgot.
Oh, well, maybe I asked it weird. I guess I asked you, like, what would you personally do to impact the world or, like, make it better if you
Uh,
could?
it's hard for me to decide because you think like no matter what you do, there's going to be a butterfly effect. So you
Mhm.
change one thing, and I don't know what other dominoes are going to fall. So it's I don't know. That kind of question makes me nervous because I don't what what needs to be changed. I don't know. Like probably the example I gave earlier with politicians and money not being involved. That would
Mhm.
probably be a good one. Um, I don't know. What's a what's a good one? Probably just like wars that don't need to happen would be a good one. I'm not one of these people who's like anti-war. Like I'm guessing some wars are actually needed. Like every once in a while, conflict is just inevitable. But some wars are obviously just fought over like petty stuff, and I probably wouldn't want those to continue.
Mm. So, you said you're getting a degree in English literature. So, like, what do you want to do with that degree?
Originally, the plan was to become a teacher, but I'm having second thoughts. I don't know if I want to be a teacher.
So, what are your
So
hesitations about that?
I don't know. I don't know if that would be fulfilling to me. I might be good at it, but I also feel like I feel weird about being a teacher because I'd rather go create something and then go be a teacher because then I feel like I'm worth something to society. I don't want to just teach what someone teaches me something and then I go teach it to some other people who are going to go learn it again from someone else. Like it's a weird little educational circle jerk that goes on.
Right. It's kind of like telephone, but for teaching.
Yeah, that's what I feel weird about education. I don't know if it's structured the best way ever. Like I think it would be better if like kids, let's say, had standard elementary for like the first 6 or 7 grades, and then after that you like apprenticed. So like if you wanted to be a writer, you would apprentice under a writer. If you wanted to be a painter, you would apprentice under a painter. Like that would make more sense to me than having 12 standard grades and then everyone has to go get a degree and take a bunch of stuff they're not interested in. I just sort of feel, I guess, intuitively that the system needs to be repaired. But I don't know if I'm the person to do it because I feel like it's such a complex uh, spider web of problems that it's hard to know where to begin, right?
Isn't that like every problem in the world? Like every problem is a spider web. Like you start plucking at the strings and then you start realizing like how giant it is.
Yeah. I feel like our connection's really good right now.
Yes.
Could you give me some examples of where you notice 4 slot SI with yourself?
um
Like, do you feel like you're not very in touch with your body?
Oh yeah, like sometimes I relate to INFP stereotypes a lot. Like I sometimes feel like I'm SE blind because like I can walk into a door a million times and not remember that the door's there. And it's not because I don't remember the door. It's because like
Are you
in the
serious?
moment I'm not paying attention and I just like
You
I get
actually walk into doors?
all the time. Huh?
You actually walk into doors?
Not into doors but into like door frames.
Okay.
Like I'll round a corner and hit my arm on the wall.
Maybe that happens to me as well occasionally. But I don't know. I thought you meant like you walked right into the door without opening. I'm like, that's crazy. That's like a stereotype of an ENFP.
No.
That you guys are just like these airheads that like walk into things just totally like blithely in your own world and don't know what's in front of you.
It's definitely true that I fit that stereotype, though.
It's probably worse when you're younger, right?
Oh yeah, I think it's still pretty bad now, though. It's definitely a weakness. Like, um, having low SI, I feel like I can forget where I put things a lot. I used to think that I was really good at remembering where I put things, but as I've gotten older, I'm starting to realize that maybe I'm not that good at remembering where I put things because I tend to lose things all the time. Like, I lose my phone all the time. Like, I don't know where I put it. Sometimes it's in my lap and I'll lose my phone.
Huh. I I don't know. I mean, I don't really lose stuff, but I mean, occasionally I'll leave the front door and I'll be like, "Oh shoot, I forgot my hat" or something. Like that'll happen to me if I'm daydreaming about something. I mean, I feel like some things happen to everybody. I think regardless of type. So
Right.
sometimes people blow things I think out of proportion based off of whatever functions a person has. But I think everyone has. There's little things that happen to everybody, like forgetting stuff and whatever.
Exactly. Something that my boyfriend and I were even just talking about is that, like, when it comes to personality, like, really, the differences are so much more subtle than people want to believe that they are, and they're just, like, really minor differences in the way that our brains work, and you're much more likely to find differences, at least from my opinion, based on, like, trauma and past experience than you are, like, with personality, because personality, at least, like, the personality that we're interested in is Jungian, which is just, like, how your cognition works, like, how you process things, and that's not really something that um, is going to determine your behavior all that much as past experience will.
Fair enough. Although I do find that like with certain types, I feel like I can spot them a mile away. Like I feel with extroverted sensing dominance, I feel like I can see them like right away as soon as they enter a room. Like
Oh yeah,
I can kind of feel it.
yeah. Though I have confused ESTP as an ENTP before until I got to know him.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a like an introverted sensing thing, but I'm very sensitive to like not yeah, basically like I'm sensitive to body language. So if I feel like if I'm around somebody, it's like I can feel their almost like their energy level.
Hmm.
If I'm around like an ESFP, like I feel kind of on the edge of my seat. Like I feel like they're about to jump on the wall and start crawling around. Like, and I actually feel like pretty uncomfortable. I'm kind of looking at them like, "Are you okay, bro? Do you need a glass of water? Like, what's up?"
Interesting.
I
I,
definitely, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I wasn't gonna say much.
Neither was I.
Oh, really? I know some people mistype ESFPs for ENFPs, and I don't really know how that's even possible. Like, if I met you, I feel like I'd know right away. Okay, I'm not getting extroverted sensing here at all.
I think it's people
Probably because
don't,
you're walking into doors, but you know
right?
that doesn't help you. But you know,
I think like in terms of like like the logic that we use and the way that we talk about ideas can come off really similarly at a quick glance until you like delve further into it, um, and delve more into like because there's this one girl who I also thought she was an ENFP because she reminded me a lot of myself, but then like as we started getting closer, that's when I realized that she was an ESFP.
oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, so at first you thought you two were like two peas in a pod, basically.
Yeah, I thought we were really similar, but then it was like getting to know her more, I realized that I was relating to that FITE in the middle and
She
not the
she
Eddie.
wasn't she wasn't having a constant storm of ideas all the time,
It
and
wasn't much ideas at all. She was much
she
more.
wasn't walking into doors either. Yeah.
No, not at all. She was definitely much more like in the moment and like she was just like really gregarious. Like she's just like going around talking to a bunch of people, just like really involved with people. And like if you look at the subject matter that she's talking about, it's very like extroverted sensing. Like how do you describe the things extroverted sensing people talk about? They talk about like what's like what happened to them or like how do you say this in a clear way?
It's in the physical world basically,
Yeah, yeah,
and
exactly.
it's usually exciting and adrenaline pumping. I would say
Right.
that's the big obvious difference between SI and SE is it's like everything's faster with extroverted sensors, and everything needs to be faster. Whereas I feel like SI, especially if you have in the dominant slot, we prefer things to be a little bit more mellow, a little bit slower. That's why when people have the stereotype of ISFPs being really chill, I don't really agree with it. Like I think they kind of have an edge to them, and that's just my personal opinion. But I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I think my sister's pretty crazy. I actually thought she was an INFP for a while, but it was upon further discussion and actually having her on YouTube that people are like, "Yo, it looks like extroverted sensing." And then I made her like research a bunch of stuff about extroverted sensing, and she's like, "Yeah, that's me." She's like a very like in your face kind of person. Um, and she's pretty I wouldn't call her chill by any definition of chill.
Yeah,
I would say I'm chill. She's much more like um if she gets an emotion, she's going to like react to it immediately like externally for the most part.
yeah. I noticed that with SFPs as well. Like they have an emotion, then they do something right away. They can scare me sometimes, especially
Yeah.
ESFP. They're making decisions very quickly, and they're not always the best decisions.
No. And I think that part of the problem, like with people mistyping SE DOMs, is because SE still uses intuition. It just uses a different kind of intuition. Um, and people don't understand the differences between introverted and extroverted intuition and what it actually means to have these two types of intuition.
I get a I get accused of being an SE Dom like all the time. I have people telling me I'm an ESTP in my comment section every day, but I'm still arguing with them. I don't know. They could be. I don't know. They could be right, but I have my doubts.
I don't get that from you, but
I know. Me
I'm
neither.
terrible at typing, though. I typed an ESFP as an ENFP for like 2 months, and I typed my sister as an INFP for 2 years. So
Yeah, but you were close. I mean, with the INFP, you still had the dominant function, right? And with
exactly.
I think with the ESFP, that's going to happen just because you share those middle two functions.
Yeah, I think it's easier for me to spot FE and TI and FI and TE than it is for NE and SE. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
getting better at it, but it's definitely, I think, usually easier for me to spot. Um,
yeah. It's interesting you say that though, because I know a lot of ENTPs when they meet ESTPs, they think that they're ENTPs a lot. I don't know if that's an any Dom thing, but I could see because you see that's the same relationship you would have with ESFPs.
right.
So when
Uh,
ENTPs meet an ESTP, they're like, I think that guy might be an ENTP. I was just gonna say like ENTPs when they meet ESTPs probably think they're also ENTPs, and then they see the ESTP do something physical, and they're like, oh, we're very different. I see the difference.
yeah, and I find with ESTPs, I can pull them out much more easily than an ESFP, mostly because the stuff that they talk about, like we kind of mentioned physical, but like my boss is an ESTP, um, and we'll kind of start talking about like more intuitive topics, but it'll usually be like he's pretty like this is what it is. This is what it is. This is what it is. And there's no like question, there's no debate. Like within any there's always debate as to what something is. And with SE it's like this is what it is, I think.
Yeah, there's only like one. They're very. I don't want to use the word tunnel vision with a negative connotation, but they're very decisive in their worldview.
Right.
Like they make a decision very quick, which serves them well in situations like pressured environments where you have to make quick decisions. That's why they're known as a lot of probably good soldiers and policemen and people who work in very stressful environments. I think SC DOMs do very well in those environments for that reason.
Yeah, I have well, I used to work with an ESFP, ESTP, and then my big boss. I think it's hard to know if she's TI or FI, actually. Like, I struggle with her. I struggle with, sorry, gave me a pop up.
I got the same one. I know what you're talking
Oh,
about.
okay. I struggle with her type because I just don't see her enough. She talks things out a lot because I think she's an ESFP because she's like really quick to like ideas, but then wants to like break them down because she knows she needs to, or she'll. I think it's because she knows she needs to, or she'll get taken away by the idea.
How old is she?
Mm, she's older than me. I think she's in her 30s, maybe. She could be in her 40s. I don't know. I've never actually seen her on webcam. I've only ever talked to her, so um,
Right.
I don't really know how old she is, to be honest.
I mean, if that's the case, I would imagine. Like I feel like ESFPs when they're healthy, they can throw people off because there's a lot of like really aggressive like ESFPs who are really out there. So I think when they're really the healthy ones, especially if they've gotten older and they have a lot of experience, I think they can throw people off because they can when they start to engage those bottom two functions. I think start to throw people off as to what their type could be. But I think what you do is you have to ask them what they were like when they were younger, and it'll probably spell ESFP a lot clearer.
Right. Yeah, she filled out this 20 question thing, which I thought was pretty telling. Like the things that she would want to do, um, her responses to like what would you do in this kind of situation were very like practical, which to me was like SETE, the way that she was practical about it. Like it was like, if you were on a desert island, what 2 books would you bring? And she like decided on 2 like survival books, and she was like specific with what kind of survival book she needed. And then she was like, if she could do anything, she would like travel the world and backpack around the world. And like, she's never been big. I don't know. That's all I'm like remembering right now. I can't remember all the other answers, but
Sounds like an ESFP. And what you were saying about the survival book, that makes sense because I don't know what it is about ESFPs, but I think when they get mature, they get really into, I think it's a third slot TE thing, but they start getting really into studying. Like you always hear them say the word studying, like I'm studying this or I'm studying that, and I'll be like, what's studying? What are you talking about? But it's it's like I think it's them fulfilling their third slot TE, so they feel like they need to start gathering knowledge. I don't know if ENFPs do that. You guys probably do that from a young age, but I know ESFPs as they get older, they start to do that more and more. They start to really educate themselves, and that becomes a big part of their life.
yeah, I have another friend who I think she's an ESFP. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if she has FE or if she just values taking care of other people. But she's like going to school and she studies a lot. Like she puts in a lot of hours of studying that if I were in school, I never would do or never would need.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like, I either know it or I don't is pretty much my mentality with school stuff.
Well, I think extroverted sensing is so willful that oftentimes those types, they'll push themselves through a lot of stuff that maybe any SI people wouldn't. So I've met a lot of, ESFPs, ESTPs who will just decide like, okay, like I'm going to study all this, and they'll really do it. They'll like push through a ton of information. They'll do a ton of writing all in one sitting. I think it's just an extroverted sensing willpower thing, in my opinion. Also, what you were saying about your ESFP friend having pretty good FE, there's some disagreement, I think, in typology. Some people over in socionics believe that second slot FI users are actually pretty good at FE. Like your type ESFPs actually have like really good FE, but then there's other people who think it's more like, it's countervalued and it's weaker. Both agree it's countervalued, but some people think that it's stronger. I don't know. It depends on your perspective. I don't know. Your FE seems pretty good. It's not the same as like an ENFJ's, but I can definitely feel it,
Right. I think I have learned to value it through personal experience. Mostly being that I'm a female, and when you are a female, you have to pay attention to those things. I don't know
that's a good point.
if you've heard my embarrassing story or not, but when I was in 3rd grade, I liked this kid. I just moved to the school, and I liked this guy in the class, and I was talking to this girl at lunch one day, and we were talking about how we both liked him. And I'm sitting here like, oh, that's so cool. We have something in common. Like, yeah, nice. Let's talk more about it. We get back into the class. The teacher goes to the bathroom and she just like says in front of the whole class that I like him. Like, I was just
wow.
like,
She got you.
She did. She took advantage of me. And I think that's when I started paying more attention to that kind of stuff.
You should have been like, yeah, I do. What's up, bitch?
I know, but I was like, I had only been at that school like 3 weeks, and I was already self-conscious, and yeah.
Yeah, I probably went through something similar. I was very easily like swayed when I was younger. I remember one time, I think I was in grade 4 or something. Some kids told me, they're like, Curtis, if you want to be cool, go erase what the teacher has on the board and throw all the stuff on the floor. And I was like, okay. So I like went and did it. And then the teacher came back. She's like, who did this? And I'm like, me.
Like proud.
And she was like, she knew I was like really innocent. She's like, okay, Curtis, you can't do that. She wasn't even that mad. I think she knew I was like tricked into doing it.
Oh, that's sweet though.
Bizarre. I think I believe I was 10. Probably a little bit too old to be falling for those sort of tricks, but it happened. But whatever.
So that theory that you're blind to your 7th slot function, would you agree that you're like FE blind?
I think so. I mean, here's how I would describe it. I've used this analogy in one of my videos before, but I view it like FE like playing an instrument. So I might be able to play, as an FE polar person, I might be able to play 1 or 2 chords on the guitar really well, and then someone listening could be like, oh, he knows how to play the guitar. But someone who actually has FE can play 100 different chords. They can do solos. They can do all sorts of tricks. They're a rock star, basically.
Mm.
It's like I'm very limited in my expression. I can give one or two notes. Like right now, I'm like enthusiastic, but I don't have a lot of range. So I can seem, I think, better FE than I am, but most of it's just I learned one or two chords, as my analogy follows, through experience. I just can't do a lot. And when I was younger, I definitely felt the repercussions of not being, I don't know, socially aware. There's also some TE that goes on there. It's like I know it's supposed to work. I'll be like, okay, when you smile at people and you say thank you, they like that. But
Yeah.
I don't actually know how it's affecting them. I just assume it's working. I'm like, okay, they're smiling back. I think they like me. That's FE polar.
Yeah, I think I can relate to that as well, and I think that there's something about like TE users and how we approach FE, because TE is very like action oriented, I think, and we want to show what our FI is or whatever, and so we relate FE to that TE, and so we're like, okay, TE can get something done, so I can use TE to manufacture FE.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. You'll notice that a lot with ENTJs. They do a similar thing where they have sort of this very mechanical FE that's, you can kind of tell it's fake. You can probably feel something similar with me. It's not really the most like natural kind of FE. It's like knockoff brand of Coca-Cola. It's still cola, but it's just not very good. It's the cheap brand that nobody should ever have to buy unless they're really broke.
We have Shasta out here. That's what I think when you're talking about off-brand cola. Shasta. We used to call it Shitsta.
Oh my god. It's like what they have in like the vending machines when you're in high school. They have like this. I think in Canada we have Fresca. It's
Mm,
like the shittiest 7-Up you've ever had. It's like just the worst 7-Up. Pretty sure it glows in the dark.
ew.
Probably gives you cancer. It's the most disgusting thing ever. But I used to drink them all the time. Like immediately after wrestling practice, I would chug like a Zero Coke or whatever. Do you guys have that Coke Zero?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Of course, it's in the States. What a dumb question. But
Coca-Cola's from Georgia. No.
it's in like Super Bowl commercials and stuff. And I'm asking you if you have Coke Zero in America. But yeah, I'd drink one of those, and then I'd have a Fresca right after. And I didn't even like them. I would just do it anyways. But
What's it like across the border? It's a whole new land.
you guys have Coke, right? I thought that was just a Canadian thing. We have polar bears, so it's our thing, right?
Oh, I
That's
see.
what's in all the commercials. They always have polar bears, right?
Does anyone even see polar bears? Like, does anyone even live that far north except indigenous people?
I mean, there's people who live up there for sure, who are not indigenous, but I call those people crazy. But I used to live fairly up north in BC, where it was we'd have snow till about April, so that's pretty hardcore. But where I live now, like it's only snowed a couple times. Right now, it's really nice. We actually got our first snowfall in February, which is bizarre. We shouldn't talk about the weather. This is awful. Let's talk about type again. I don't want to be the ISTJ talking about the weather. Don't make me that guy, Michelle. I don't feel good about that.
No, oh man. So one of the other questions I was going to ask is like, what do you wish people knew about you and your type? Like, what stereo? Or let me just like leave the question as that. What do you wish people knew about your type?
I don't really wish anyone knew anything. Like, to be honest, I don't really like controlling people. Like, I just want people to make what they will of me. And I mean, it sounds kind of selfish, but I don't care too much what people think of ISTJs, even though I kind of maybe portray that in my videos, at least in one of my videos. See, I kind of came out hard in my early videos where I was like kind of in your face, but that's not really how I act at all. So I mean, I don't know. I put myself out there on the internet. I want people to make whatever they will of me. They don't have to like me or hate me. Just do what you want. And as far as ISTJs, I don't want anyone to think anything. Like, think whatever you want.
Very pragmatic answer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't like the idea of controlling people, and that actually connects me back to polar FE. I've gotten into arguments with professors over sort of social things because of that. I don't know if you want me to fill
Yeah,
in on
yeah.
that. So I know I was in one class, it was an Irish poetry class, and the professor was arguing the importance of tradition and culture. And I don't think those things are bad. I think those things are important, obviously, and they provide a path for many people in life, especially young people who are lost. If their culture helps them out, I understand that's cool. But I didn't really like the idea. Like he was saying things like the Irish people are this, or these people are that, and I'm like, you're just lumping everyone into a group. Like people are ultimately, I think, are individuals, or at least I'd like them to be individuals. Maybe they don't behave like individuals, but I'd personally like them to be. Like I like the idea of people making decisions as an individual, and I think that's oftentimes the people we admire the most in history are people who acted as individuals.
But yeah, actually, that's something I think about a lot. In terms of like how people lump other people together, and like this whole idea of like duality between one side and the other, like you have to be one or you have to be the other, and like you need to fit into one or the other or you don't make sense. Like even you were saying like you would vote liberal if you had some kind of gain from it. You would probably also vote right wing as well if you had something to gain from it, right?
Yeah, but I'm an asshole. You shouldn't take my advice on those sort of things. Like I don't think I wouldn't want everyone to think like that. I'll be honest with you. But that's just an area where I need to grow personally. But whatever. I
Why
don't
do you
know.
say you need to grow in that area?
I don't know. Like it's just it's a pretty selfish way to go through life. Just going like, okay, I can benefit from this, so I'm gonna do it. It's kind of dark in a sense, and I don't know if it's the best thing for my soul, for my FI. I don't know.
Oh.
But yeah. I mean, I'm not religious, so it's not like I'm worried about being punished at the end of my life for being a douche. But I do think about it. Like, I don't want to be just a horrible human being.
Mm.
I do care, I guess.
Uh-huh. No, just kidding.
Yeah. But I was thinking about what I was saying about polar FE in class and sort of me wanting people to be individuals. But yeah, I find that the problem with that is that I'm kind of a hypocrite in that sense, because even though in arguments I argue for people to be individuals and be their own person, at the same time there's some irony there because I oftentimes am swayed by, I guess, group opinion or consensus, and I can very easily be manipulated by what the crowd or the group is saying. So there's some irony there. Like I'm a bit of a hypocrite for even arguing that because I'm often swayed by what others say. So sort of
Can
a
you give an
weird,
example?
like let's say I was just arguing. I don't know if I can give you a specific example from my life, but let's just say we were arguing like a political position, and I felt a certain way. But then all the smart people in the room were arguing something else. I'd start to question what I was thinking. I'd be like, "Am I really looking at this right, or am I just the one idiot?" In this? Oh, I'll give you one example. I just thought of one. So I was in a sociology class, and we were arguing the death penalty. And I was arguing that the death penalty was legit, not for everyone, but I felt as though for, let's say, a child rapist or a child molester or like a mass murderer, I felt like in those cases the death penalty was justified. Maybe I'm wrong, but I was one of two people in a class of like 50 who thought this. Everyone else was saying death penalty shouldn't be allowed. I don't know if I'm right, but it's just how I felt at the time. But I felt very awkward being the only person in the room who felt that way. And the professor was like, "Oh, you guys are idiots." Maybe we are. I don't know, but that's just how I felt.
Interesting. Because what it sounds like to me, now to psychoanalyze it in like a psychology kind of way, is that like your TE, because something that I've been thinking about, and I had a conversation with an ENTP, and we kind of came up with this idea of self-evidence. And with TE, um, the logic or the understanding of something is relatively self-evident. And for FE people, like the moral choice is self-evident. Like they don't need to question it, it just is. And so it sounds like since you have second slot TE, anything that's in your second slot, you're going to kind of circumvent a lot of the times, and you have to like face it head on sometimes. And in that situation, you realize that your your logic didn't match everyone else's logic, so you decided you better change your logic to fit with everyone else.
Well, in the moment, I didn't. I stuck with it for that classroom.
Right, because of FI, you had to.
Yeah, like in the like I didn't backtrack during the class. It was just sort of after the fact at home later that day. I was just sort of thinking about it, like maybe I was wrong about that because I'm not really that attached to ideas. Maybe that's a sign of lower FI. Like I often question how I feel about things or if I'm right. But yeah, I mean, I stuck to my guns at least in that scenario. Maybe not always, but I'd say that's a good example where I held firm at least in that instance. I guess I was meaning to ask you, do you notice polar TI in any spots in your life?
Oh
Or,
yeah. um, so like having any first slot means that constantly I'm being bombarded by like ideas and connections and I just see them all the time. Like I see things as pretty obviously connected. And my FI prioritizes them, right? So it's not a matter of like, do I have proof for it? It's just like, okay, this one seems the most likely because I like relate to it the most or whatever. Or it's like it seems like the most important. It like seems like the most
yeah,
important is like the best way to put it.
but to,
Um,
but to be honest, I do that too. Like I totally relate to what you're saying because my
right?
TI is not very good either.
Yeah.
I guess ISTJs are supposed to help ENFPs with like a little bit of like TI because we can do it a little bit.
Right. Well,
Like
like
we can
we
do
can
just
do
enough.
FE.
Yeah, it's like you can do just enough FE to help me out, and I can do just enough TI to help you out. That's sort of what I've heard how it works, at least in socionics.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, because I have all these ideas and I prioritize them by the way that I think or they seem most important. Um, I often don't have any like logical backing behind it, and also, um,
Who needs that?
you're right. I don't really spend that much time figuring out like what I think um, is the most logical understanding of things because I personally feel like there's no way that I'll ever be right because as soon as I get stuck in something, I'll probably find a way to prove it wrong. Um, so
Yeah,
it's just very hard to trust anything TI inside my own
yeah.
brain.
I find that I experience something similar, but I feel like I'm capable of making logical arguments. I'm just too lazy to do it. Like I kind of look at it and I'm like, I could really think this through and come up with really logical reasons to think what I think, but I'm not gonna because I just don't feel like it. I'm like, meh. Uh, One question though I did have is that as an ENFP, did you find when you were a young girl, not that you're not young now, you look very young, but I'm saying when you were really young, did you find you were really into conspiracy theories? Because I knew a lot of ENFPs when I was growing up who were kind of into that when they were young, like middle school stuff that doesn't really make sense.
Hmm.
Are
I
you a
mean,
flat earther, Michelle?
no, no. But my boyfriend's brother is, and I'm pretty sure he's an ISTJ. Um,
He believes the Earth is flat. That's insane.
yeah. Anyway,
he should make a YouTube channel for ISTJs.
all right. No, I've also thought he might be ISFJ. Either way, he definitely has SI first slot. So that
He's like I can't see it, so I don't believe it.
right.
I can kind of get that, but I guess I put more faith in like what the authorities tell me or what smart people tell me. I tend to assume that there's people smarter than me. That's probably why.
Mm, yeah.
I
Conspiracy.
don't I don't I don't assume I'm the smartest guy in the room.
Mm, I can have that problem. If we're being honest, I have like an ego problem. I try not to, but
I have
experience. Oh, go
I
ahead.
have sorry, I keep cutting you off.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Uh, I I probably have an ego problem, but more from like a performance thing. Like when I was in theater, I really liked people having their eyes on me and being the star of the show. I liked that kind of stuff. So I guess I'm egotistical in that sense. So I can kind of relate to you maybe on some level. It just usually isn't connected to my intellect maybe as
Mm,
much. Although there were times like in high school where, like in group seminars and stuff, I did tend to dominate the conversation. So maybe there's some there as well. I don't know. I think I just like attention. I'm an attention whore, Michelle. I can't
Mm,
help it.
same. I think maybe more so than intelligence. I normally like want to be the best in the room. So if I find someone that's better than me, then my entire sole purpose becomes being better than them at whatever.
Oh, see, that's okay though, because that's just competitive nature.
Yeah.
I'm like that too. I'm competitive as well. Like if I'm in a realm where I feel like only, especially if there's only like one or two people who are better than me, then I really want to be better.
Oh
If I'm
yeah,
at the if
same.
I'm at the bottom of the hill and like there's like 20 people better than me, then I don't really worry about it. But if I'm like number 2 or 3, then I really want to be number 1 for sure.
Yeah. The only time I would care if I'm at the bottom is if it's something I wanted to be better at. And then I would be like, damn, I really got to work.
Right,
But
right. Hold on
yeah,
a
I
second.
hate when I am the best though, because then there's no way to improve. So I like being second place, so then I can always try to be better.
Okay. I had I don't know how long you want to go for this, but I had one more question for you for sure.
Okay.
Are you running low on time or are
No.
we good? We're good? We're good?
Mhm.
Okay. I thought you said you had to go to work or something. I don't know.
No. It's my day off.
Oh, okay, we're good then. I meant to ask you, I've met a lot of ENFPs who are very much into like meditation and yoga. Now, I'm personally, surprise, surprise, as an ISTJ, I'm pretty into meditation as well. That's actually what I meant to say as a hobby. I'm actually really into meditation. I actually like that. And I do a little bit of yoga on my own. But I was curious if you've experimented at all with meditation.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's something I've been trying to work on. It's just so hard to like actually make the time for, but I always like end up going back to it. Yoga and meditation actually. Um, and I'm usually like, oh, I can just do like the yoga workout that we did at this one class I took. Like I can totally remember everything, and I'm sure I'll have the positions correct because I have such good control of my body. um, but yeah, meditation is definitely something that I try.
Yeah.
I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm good at it, but
See, with you, assuming you remembered all the positions. See, I assume I don't remember anything. I just assume right off the bat. I'm like, there's no way I can remember exactly what to do. I was like, I better record this or something. But there's so many good walkthroughs like online and stuff, that sort of thing. But no, I'm not really into yoga. But I like meditation. I was really disciplined about it for a long time, to where I would like do it every day, and I found that really helped with stress, because I don't know if it's an ISTJ thing, but I find that we get stressed out pretty easily, especially if there's a lot going on in our life at once.
mm,
That's one thing I like about you ENFPs, is I find that no matter how much stuff's going on in your life, you guys seem to manage to juggle it all, and you guys sort of thrive in that, in the fray, so to speak.
yeah, there are people who speculate that we purposely cause chaos so that we can be more in our element. Like if things are too boring, then we get lazy and bored. So we need to keep a lot of things going. Otherwise, we start like slipping.
Do you find you're really comfortable when you have like a ton of different things going on?
Oh yeah, I prefer to have a bunch of things going on. Except then I have these moments where I'm just like, oh my god, I signed up for too much, and then I have like a mental breakdown.
See, I like having time to like reflect on stuff. I hate when I get so busy that I have to like start scheduling things
Mm,
or keeping track of like time. Then I'm like, oh my god, now I have this thing at this time, and I have to make sure I get dressed to go do this thing. That starts to wear on me a little bit, because I'd rather have time to. I don't know. I like downtime a lot, to sort of think through my next. I don't know, whatever direction I want to go in next in life. If I find when there's too much going on, I can't think clearly.
interesting. So, I don't know how much you've looked into like the objective personality, um, the Dave superpowers, but it sounds like you lead with like sleep. Like sleep is your main animal.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I've heard some of those concepts, but yeah, I've heard the concept of sleep, and I'm like, yeah, I'm very much, that's my thing.
That's like my last. That's like the one I neglect.
Are you like blast or something? I don't even know what the animals are or whatever.
So the
What's
animals are like I don't know exactly how it all works, but I
I think
know
it's sleep, consume, blast, and play, isn't it?
exactly.
I kind
Exactly.
of I watched one of the videos. I wasn't sure if I remembered it. See, that's SI right there. I got it. I had it all down the first time.
Exactly. I've been wanting to take their class. I think I'm going to do it soon, just so I can kind of learn more about their system and how it actually works. Because I think there's something to what they're doing. I mean, their entire goal really is like self development. So, like helping people by sharing with them like what their personality is, other people who are like it, and how they can overcome their like the things that they're fearing and the things that they're like overwhelmed with. Like that's basically the whole goal of their stuff.
Yeah, I definitely respect her from that standpoint. I see it as probably a pretty admirable uh, way to approach type. They're not just doing it sort of as entertainment. They're really trying to actually, make something of it. I think, as they say, it's they want to be more than just astrology. They want to
Right.
they really want to take it to the next level. To be
Yeah.
honest, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just rambling.
Oh, I was just gonna say it kind of annoys me. I mean, I like Eric a lot, but it kind of annoys me that he just like down talks them so much.
Opposite direction. We're not biased, Michelle. I won't speak for you, but I'm biased. I like Eric personally more, but I kind of enjoy his when he's talking smack about other channels. That's just my thing. I personally enjoy him, and I think I'd like to see those two sit down and have a serious discussion. Like I'd really like to see what happens, because ultimately, we can all talk, but it'd be good to have them in the same room and see, what comes of it.
Yeah, I think that would be really interesting. I know that Eric's not like just saying that their stuff sucks or whatever. He's just like, these are the fallacies that I see. Like, are you going to fix it? Et cetera, et cetera. So,
Well, I think people underestimate Eric because he doesn't put a lot into his presentation. But whether you like him or not, I can't help but I don't think people can help but respect him for his abilities as a debate person.
oh yeah, that's
He's
definitely a
obviously
strength of his.
he's obviously very skilled in that realm, and that's why I think no matter who he debates, whether it's C.S. Joseph or Dave Superpowers, I think he'll prove to be a formidable foe. And
Yeah,
if nothing else, I think the discussion will be interesting regardless of which side a person takes.
right.
And it might actually make both better in a sense. Like if they have a meeting, it'll probably make both guys' systems better because they'll have to hear the other person's argument and they'll have to come up with more ways to refute what they're saying. And I think it just makes ultimately the competition makes everybody better, like with anything.
Right. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because actually some of the world's greatest innovations have come from competition, like Tesla and Edison, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. The Wright brothers actually had a major competition. I forgot the guy's name, but like they almost weren't the first person in flight. It was actually like a really close race between them and somebody else. I can't remember his name though.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because I feel like right now channels in typology are growing really fast, or they're starting to grow. Like you see everyone, whether it's even talking with famous people with Host Eric, it's growing faster. C.S. Joseph's channel is growing really fast. Dave Superpowers obviously is growing really fast. The only interesting thing about Dave Superpowers, I don't know if you knew this, but he was around back in 2011. Do you know that?
I know that he's had a channel for a long time. I didn't know the exact year.
The interesting thing is he took a long hiatus. I believe he stopped making videos in like 2011, but he hasn't deleted all of them, but he has some old videos from back when he first started. But you can sort of see you can definitely see the change where he's sort of dealing with more mainstream Myers-Briggs and now moving into more of his objective personality brand and sort of some of the changes they make. It's interesting to see and how some of his opinions changed. Ultimately, I think people's systems, like how they define functions, is very different.
Right.
And I think when one person says this person's an ISFP, and then another system says this person's an ISFP, I think what they're talking about is very different. And I think their definitions for functions are very different. So I think a lot of times when we're talking about personality type, we're almost not even really talking about the same thing. So that's from that perspective, I can respect Dave trying to cement a consensus
Right.
on what a type
Exactly.
is. So I can, from a data collecting standpoint, I can't help but respect what he's trying to do. But I'm sure there's counter arguments, of course, as there always are, and I'd love to hear both sides, of course.
Right. I honestly think we should scrap all of the MBTI terminology and come up with new terms, so that we don't have the same associations with all the old terms and all the confusion that comes therein, because there are so many people who have no idea what FE is, have no idea what FI is, have no idea what SE and SI is. And like, there's just so much information that counteracts each other. And there's so many people who talked about things that they didn't know, like myself included, where they gave misinformation. I think it would be more effective to just completely change the language and like
Yeah,
create a new system that is like based off Jungian typology, but with new verbiage.
yeah, I can see that, but I think it's like the same thing as, let's say, Americans using the imperial numbers
Yeah,
instead of the metric. They're never going to change because it's much easier just to keep using the same terminology. And plus, from a marketing, I can understand why a business would want to keep the same terms, because how else are you going to get clicks, right?
yeah,
You got to still call it INFP even if it's not, just because you want people to click on your videos and hear the information you have to say. So I can understand why people still use the same terms, but I see what you're saying. There would be value in that. It's just a question of whether or not it would ever be implemented, right?
right.
Yeah.
But Jung didn't have competition at that point, really. He just put his philosophy down, and now we use it as basically like the Bible. We're like, this is the truth.
Yeah. To be honest, though, I haven't read too much of Jung, but I have heard that the Myers-Briggs definitions of functions are quite a bit different than his. I haven't really read his stuff, but apparently he's got some interesting ideas on the functions, and there's quite a few contradictions if you really look at everyone's system. So
Yeah.
it gets very confusing the further you go down the rabbit hole. I've been watching for a while, and I can see there's a lot of conflicting theories, and it gets frustrating, especially if you want to be like pick a type
Actually
and
understand
make
it.
make videos on it or whatever.
Yeah, that's why you'll find I don't really make a whole lot of videos explaining things, because I don't want to say the wrong thing, and I don't feel like I fully understand much of it, because there's just so much contradictory information. It's hard to know what's real, and also it's hard to separate out the personal experience from the actual type, because this is coming into like nature versus nurture. I feel like people are saying, your Jungian or your MBTI type is your nature, but you also have to take into effect nurture, which is going to affect how much you develop different functions, how much you work on your behavior to overcome how you come off, etc., etc.
Yeah, and that would sort of be the answer to, let's say, if someone looked at me as an ISTJ and didn't really buy it. My argument would be that I've worked on myself a fair amount, and I've maybe filled in some of the holes that would have been there had I not had the same experience that I had. You know,
Right.
I think that's a big question. There's two sides of the debate. One is that if you're this type, you can only get so good at whatever. But there's other people who claim like no, like you can really become really well rounded and almost be hard. I believe Dave's even said that people who are really well developed are harder to type.
Yeah.
They've worked on their weaknesses so much to the point where you could mistake them for another type.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that we should all be working to transcend our type and to not really have a type. It's still fine to play with the things that you're comfortable with. Like, I'm always going to come back to any stuff because I just like dealing with these like concepts and ideas, and I like playing with new things. But like, I feel like we should try to transcend our type and just work to be well-rounded people, so we could talk to anybody and express our ideas equally to any person, no matter what their type is.
It's very ENFP of you, Michelle, to wanting to trans. I'm just bugging you, but
Wanting to transcend.
I heard a lot of ENFPs use the word transcend, so I just thought I'd point it out. But it's all good. I totally agree with what you're saying. Also, one other note with Dave's system. So you lead with extroverted intuition. So in his system, you're supposed to be constantly gathering abstract information. Do you find, and apparently your fear as an ENFP is supposed to be being controlled. Do you find you have a fear of being controlled?
I definitely know that I resisted a lot. And actually, yeah, there is a part of me that fears like governments like controlling you so much where you can't do anything that you want to do. There's
Right.
definitely like that kind of fear, and I try to ignore it because otherwise it would consume me.
See, that's where I get confused actually, though, with Dave's system is that as an ISTJ, I'm supposed to be very organized, which I am with my own stuff. Like I don't want a lot of things on the table. I want to be very focused on one or two things at one time. However, I do dislike being controlled by others. So I don't know if that is a conflicting thing, but I definitely hate being controlled by other people. So, and if
But
people are making, I don't like other people's rules. I just like my own rules.
But IJs and EPs are in the same spectrum where we're balanced between self and tribe, and we're disbalanced between observational.
Oh, right. That's actually a good point because
So you would probably also not want to be controlled.
right by people, but I might still have a very, I guess, shoehorned, narrow focus because I'm an IJ and I want to focus on one or two things at a given moment.
One last question: is there anything else that you would like to say, like plug your channel, that kind of stuff?
Well, I'd love it if you put my channel in the description. That would be great. But and I'll probably plug my. I just actually released a video today, so I might. Do you mind if I just throw that in the comments section or something?
Yeah, I think if you give me the link, I might even be able to put it in like the end card too.
All right, I'll send it to you on YouTube or whatever.
I think that works.
But as far as my channel goes, Kurtis 1996. I think the train is starting to pick up steam, so jump on while you can. I'm always willing to stop the train and pick up more passengers, but it's getting faster and faster, and we're growing every day. I'm getting like a subscriber every single day, one new
Hell
one.
yeah.
Actually, the last couple days I've gotten like I think like 10. So things are heating up, and I'm getting very excited. And you guys who watch me and or Michelle's fans, I hope you jump over to my train as well and check out my stuff. And people who are already watching me, thank you very much. And thank you to Michelle for having me on. I'm very grateful, and she put up with a lot of technical issues early on. So, you're Michelle. She's the best. She's the real deal, and I am eternally grateful to her. So that's all I got. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on and talking about ISTJ stuff, because I think it's really going to help people see, um, what an ISTJ is actually like, as opposed to what people have them built up in their minds to be like.
Yeah.
But thanks so much for coming on, and thanks everyone for watching. Feel free to put comments for Kurtis. I'm sure he'll be watching the chat or the comment section. So,
all right. Thank you very much, Michelle. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
yeah, you too. Bye.
All right. Bye.